The year is 2025. The world stands on a razor's edge. Two global forces, NATO and BRICS, are silently building toward a confrontation no one dares to name, but everyone is preparing for. One side commands legacy, technology, and global alliances. The other, rising powerhouses with vast resources, unstoppable economies, and growing military ambition. What if diplomacy fails? What if the chessboard flips? In this video, we dive deep into the ultimate showdown. NATO versus BRICS, a military face-off that could reshape the future of global power forever. Stay with us. What you're about to see might just change the way you look at the world. To understand the storm that's brewing, we need to know the players. NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is a military alliance born from the ashes of World War II. It includes 31 countries from North America and Europe, united by a single promise. An attack on one is an attack on all. Backed by the might of the US military, NATO remains the most powerful alliance the world has ever seen. BRICS, on the other hand, began as an economic bloc. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But by 2025, BRICS is no longer just about trade, it's about influence. With new members like Iran and Saudi Arabia joining the fold, BRICS is evolving into a geopolitical counterweight. Together, these two giants represent more than half the planet's population and two competing visions of the future. Numbers don't tell the whole story, but in war, they matter. Let's break it down. NATO commands an estimated 3.5 million active duty personnel, backed by nearly 5 million reservists. The United States leads the charge, followed by Turkey, France, the UK and Germany. NATO also boasts more than 12,000 aircraft, over 14,000 tanks, and nearly 300 naval vessels, including 11 aircraft carriers. Now turn east. BRICS, with recent expansions, packs a serious punch. Combined, they field over 4.2 million active troops and 6 million reserves. China and India alone contribute the lion's share, with massive standing armies ready to mobilize in days. Russia adds elite combat experience and advanced ground forces. But it's not just boots on the ground. China's air force is the third largest in the world. India's is rising fast, and Russia's strategic bombers remain a wild card. On land, BRICS commands over 17,000 tanks, though many vary in modernity. But don't underestimate quantity, especially when backed by local terrain advantages and logistical depth. At sea, NATO dominates globally. The US Navy alone could outmatch several nations combined. But BRICS nations control key regional waters, from the South China Sea to the Persian Gulf, creating deadly choke points. In raw numbers, the scales are closer than you think. In experience, technology, and coordination, NATO may lead. But in sheer manpower and geographic reach, BRICS is closing in. And remember, wars aren't fought by numbers alone, but by how fast those numbers can move. In modern warfare, money talks. Loudly. Let's talk defense budgets. NATO, led by the United States, spends more on defense than the rest of the world, combined. In 2025, NATO's total defense budget crosses $1.3 trillion. The US alone accounts for over $850 billion. That means cutting-edge fighter jets, laser weapons, autonomous drones, next-gen submarines, and a global logistics machine that can deploy power anywhere, anytime. BRICS, while traditionally less focused on military spending, is catching up, fast. China's defense budget, over $300 billion. Second only to the US, Russia, and India follow, with $100+ billion each. And with recent BRICS expansion, oil-rich nations like Saudi Arabia and Iran are pouring billions more into defense R&D. But here's the twist. BRICS doesn't just spend, it innovates differently. China is a rising force in AI-powered surveillance, hypersonic missiles, and quantum communication. Russia specializes in electronic warfare, cyber weapons, and nuclear deterrence. India's launching military satellites at record speed, while Brazil invests in drone warfare and jungle combat systems. And speaking of drones, the US leads in stealth UAVs and armed reconnaissance. But China, it's mass-producing swarms of AI-controlled drones. In space, NATO holds the upper hand, over 2,000 active military and civilian satellites, providing unmatched surveillance and navigation. But BRICS nations are responding, launching new satellites monthly, developing anti-satellite weapons, and exploring the militarization of orbit. And then there's cyber warfare, the silent battlefield. NATO has entire commands dedicated to digital defense. But Russia allegedly deployed cyber tools capable of crippling power grids. China accused of deep infiltration into global infrastructure. This isn't just a battle of weapons anymore. It's a race for technological dominance. And in this race, the winner may not fire the first shot. They may simply shut down the world. Now it's time to roll out the machines, the backbone of modern warfare. Let's start with the kings of the battlefield, tanks. The US M1A2 Abrams, battle-tested, heavily armoured and constantly upgraded. Over 8,000 units built. It's fast for its size, packs a 120mm smoothbore cannon, and comes loaded with advanced thermal optics and battlefield networking. Facing it, the T-14 Armata, Russia's futuristic entry. Unmanned turret, active protection systems, radar signature reduction. But here's the catch, it's still in limited deployment. China counters with the VT-4, an export powerhouse. Not as advanced as the Abrams or Armata, but cheap, agile and scalable, deployed across Asia and Africa. India and Brazil still rely on older models, but massive upgrade programs are underway. Bottom line, NATO fields more high-tech tanks, but BRICS nations could outproduce and outdeploy if war becomes a numbers game. Now to the skies, the real speed demons. The crown jewel of NATO air power is the F-35 Lightning II. A fifth-generation stealth fighter with supersonic speed, sense of fusion, and battlefield dominance. Over 1,000 units are already in service. It's not just a jet, it's a flying command center. Russia's response. The Su-57 Felon, sleek, fast, maneuverable, less stealthy but deadly in close combat and equipped with long-range missiles. China's answer, the J-20 Mighty Dragon. A twin-engine stealth fighter designed to challenge US air superiority in the Pacific. Still evolving, but already patrolling contested airspace. And don't forget India's Tejas and the upcoming AMCA project, a fifth-gen stealth jet born out of necessity. In raw numbers and networked capabilities, NATO leads. But BRICS is closing the air gap faster than anyone expected. Now, to the oceans. NATO. Go rules the waves. The US Navy operates 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, each a floating city of destruction. Add in the UK's Queen Elizabeth class and France's Charles de Gaulle, and NATO has undisputed global reach. But look closer. China now has 3 aircraft carriers, with the 4th, a nuclear-powered supercarrier, under construction. Their navy is now the largest in the world by ship count, focused on dominating the South China Sea. India brings 2 carriers of its own, including the indigenously built INS Vikrant. Russia's aging Admiral Kuznetsov is mostly symbolic, but hypersonic-equipped destroyers and nuclear subs still pose serious threats. And then there's strategy. NATO's carriers are global force projectors. BRICS navies focus on regional dominance, choke points, and anti-access weapons. Think missile swarms, shore-based cruise systems, submarine ambushes. It's not just who has the bigger fleet, it's who uses the sea better. So who wins the tech showdown? NATO. Precision, training, and battlefield integration. BRICS. Mass production, innovation under pressure and regional positioning. The battlefield hardware is only getting smarter, faster, and deadlier. And in a real clash, it won't be about which side has the best weapon, but who pulls the trigger first. If NATO and BRICS ever clash, the question isn't just who would fight, it's where the first shot would be fired. The world is a chessboard of flashpoints, each one a match waiting to ignite the powder keg. Scenario 1, Eastern Europe. The Baltic states, Poland, Ukraine, NATO forces already face Russian troops across tense borders. One misstep, an airspace violation, a cyber attack gone too far, and the alliance is triggered. Article 5, instant escalation. Scenario 2, the South China Sea. China claims vast waters. NATO allies like the US and UK sail warships through contested zones. Add Taiwan to the mix, and you've got a high-stakes showdown between American carriers and Chinese missile batteries. Scenario 3, the Indo-Pakistani frontier. India, a BRICS power, faces constant tension with Pakistan, a close US partner. A border clash could spiral, pulling both alliances into a regional nuclear nightmare. Scenario 4, the Middle East. Iran, now aligned with BRICS, has long-standing friction with NATO allies like the US, Israel and Saudi Arabia. What happens if a NATO drone is shot down over the Strait of Hormuz? Or if a cyber strike takes out oil infrastructure? Scenario 5, the Arctic. Melting ice reveals new shipping lanes and untapped resources. Russia and NATO both claim dominion. What begins as an economic race could turn into a military one. But here's the most dangerous scenario of all. An accident, a miscalculation, a false radar reading. In a world packed with hypersonic weapons, autonomous drones and AI-driven defense systems, seconds matter. The first strike might not come with warning. It might come from a keyboard, from space, from a drone swarm that malfunctions. And once it begins, can anyone stop it? So, after all the tanks, jets, missiles, numbers and strategies, who would win? NATO, technologically advanced, globally connected, backed by decades of experience. BRICS, rising fast, united by necessity, with sheer numbers and new regional dominance. In a full-scale war, both sides would bleed, cities would burn, markets would crash. The world as we know it changed in days. Nuclear powers on both sides mean that total victory is likely impossible, and total destruction very real. And maybe that's the point. These alliances, NATO and BRICS, they're not just preparing for war, they're building strength to avoid one. Because the deeper you stare into the abyss, the more you realise, in the next global war, there will be no winners, only survivors. So, what do you think? Is a confrontation between NATO and BRICS inevitable? Or are we looking at the most high-stakes chess match in human history, played to avoid checkmate? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more global military insight. And remember, the world is watching.